Kushaan, thank you for your time, man. Really appreciate it and excited to learn more about you and what you guys are doing at Will Ventures. But, I want to start with the background story. So can you kind of, talk about your journey? How did you get into the investing world? And then ultimately, how did you end up working with Will Ventures, which is one of the premier sports tech investment firms in the space? So I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thanks for having me. I'm originally from San Diego and grew up down there. I went to school in Santa Barbara at UCSB. My parents are small business owners and entrepreneurs and have been a husband and wife duo for the last 25 years building businesses. And so it's very much like around the dining table at all times and kind of got me excited about doing something in business. After school at UCSB, I did a few years of investment banking at JP Morgan up in San Francisco. And that was a great experience into just meeting investors, meeting founders. You kind of bridge a little bit of quantitative analysis with the qualitative. I've always been a big sports fan and passionate about sports and entertainment my entire life. But while I was there, my exposure to founders got me excited about doing something in the venture ecosystem. I was fortunate in 2018 to join the folks over at Endeavor. They're the parent company of WME, and they just had bought the UFC the year prior, and were kind of transforming how they were thinking about venture investing and working with startups. And I was fortunate to be the first hire to help kind of build that team and grow it, and then ultimately lead it by the time I left after about 7 years. And so we were doing everything from early stage investing to growth stage investing across the sports and entertainment landscape. And while I was in my seat at Endeavor, I had the good fortune of meeting Isaiah, Brian, and Alexis at Will Ventures really early on in their journey when they went out in 2019 and 2020 to really go and build the firm. And we stayed in touch and co-invested and just worked together over the years. And I just built a great admiration for them as people, as investors, as thinkers, and was fortunate to join the team about 6 or 7 months ago.
Nice, man. Really cool. And then, looking at your background as an investment banker and getting into the sports and entertainment sector, what did you feel like you could kind of bring to the table, or what verticals within this ecosystem you feel like was underserved, or, had a huge opportunity?
Yeah. Well, banking does a great job of, at least at the beginning, Um, you dive deep into businesses, you spend time with clients. It's a fast-paced environment. And again, you're doing a lot of things, with kind of numbers and analysis, but you're also spending a lot of time kind of learning about markets and trends, which I think is a good foundation for ultimately getting into some form of investing. While I was at Endeavor and TKO, I think what was interesting was, when we were making a lot of, when we were doing a lot of investing, and spending time with both kind of generalist investors across the tech ecosystem, how little knowledge there was, I guess, about domain specific things within sports and entertainment. And I think being in the four walls of a big talent agency, a big sports business like the UFC or WWE, and you kind of see how those companies are operated. And you just kind of see the best practices, what's working, what's not working, and can kind of help coach founders and teams through some of like what great looks like over time, even in kind of a more traditional agency or sports environment. I think was super helpful. And I think, while being there, it kind of dawned upon me of like there's definitely a gap of like, hey, there's amazing operators and people building in our categories, but there isn't necessarily the same kind of domain and sector expertise as there might be in like enterprise software and fintech and consumer tech, et cetera. So it's been fun to kind of bring a little bit of those learnings over here to Will Ventures.
Absolutely. And for people who might not know, can you kind of talk about the overall thesis at Will Ventures, what you guys are focused on, and kind of the companies that you all are interested in?
Yeah. Look, we're trying to find the best entrepreneurs who are building in sports, in entertainment, in media, and consumer. The way I kind of think about it is we're domain specific experts or sector specific fund with a bunch of people on our team who have operated in these spaces, who have invested in these spaces, who have spent a lot of time working in and around these businesses. Um, and we can be flexible on the types of business and entrepreneurs building. We're not necessarily saying, hey, it has to be X or Y for a specific end market. We've done everything from emerging sports leagues to businesses in the online gaming space, and whether it's real money gaming or video games, to companies across behavioral health, to youth sports. And those, some of those businesses look like traditional venture-backed companies, and others are a little bit more bespoke and different and have a different growth profile. So what we're looking for is just, amazing people who are relentless and very excited to build in those end markets. And we're excited to partner with them.
And so when you're analyzing a deal or opportunity, like obviously the founder is an intricate part of, or integral part of that whole process and how the founder operates the team, et cetera. But what are some of those kind of outliers or signals that you look for when you're looking at a company and thinking about investing in them?
Yeah, maybe starting with the founder, whether he or she has a deep passion about and knowledge and understanding about the kind of space they're building in, whether it's in kind of sports, whether it's in music, it's entertainment, it's in the creator space. Have they like truly spent time? Have they like faced this problem firsthand? And uh, this is a problem that they feel like needs to be built, and they're the right person or the right team to go out and do that. Are they thoughtful about like how the market's evolving and how consumer habits are changing, as we think about going from like long form to short form, where kind of people are consuming, whether it's sports or any kind of media today. Are they thoughtful about how that paradigm is shifting and where they're kind of going into that ecosystem? And then ultimately, are they surrounding themselves with great kind of teammates? Are they able to recruit an amazing team and build folks and bring folks along who are going to be stellar and part of that journey that, the relationships we have here at Will Ventures tend to be multi-year, potentially decade long in nature. So having that kind of being an amazing kind of recruiter and hiring and kind of speaking the vision into existence is really important as you think about building a team. It's a little bit of a high level answer about the team just because as I mentioned, like each business has been kind of unique. There isn't a one size fits all solution on metrics, on certain data we look at. It is case by case, whether it's a consumer app, whether it's an emerging sports league, whether it's a creator CPG led business. Like it does vary a little bit, but I think we do really start with like who is the founder and his or her team? How are they thinking about approaching the market? And do they have kind of a unique story to go and build in this space?
I love that. Um, Looking at the sports space specifically, I think sports is very different from many other industries, and you can attest to this, as from working in general
Mm.
tech to media or any other industry. What do you think are the biggest challenges founders face specifically within sports with scaling and building a company?
Yeah. Sports, if you're building for sports leagues and teams, those tend to be pretty tough customers. A lot of those times, those customers want stuff for free. They want to leverage their brand, which can give you as a founder a lot of affinity and credibility quickly. But at the time, those things can take, a while to materialize. And you just got to be thoughtful about like, is a partnership or is a relationship with a big four sports league, a sports team, et cetera. How are you kind of prioritizing that relative to the other things on your roadmap, the other customers you're trying to build for, et cetera. So, look, I think building purely for a specific part of the sports ecosystem, whether when like the teams and leagues become your customers, I think sometimes that can be a challenging proposition, just because those sales cycles can be long, and sometimes those sales cycles can not necessarily result in the economics you're excited about. So if that's the case, like we don't just think about kind of investing in sports as it relates to building X software for like a big sports league or team, but instead, like what are the interesting like ancillary areas around sports, health and wellness, longevity, these different, youth, these different areas that kind of touch athletics on a day-to-day basis, but don't necessarily have like the same issues that maybe you might run into if you are purely selling into kind of a big four sports league here in the US or abroad.
hmm One of the things you mentioned was the creator economy. I'm super bullish on it. I think there's a lot of upside there, and I believe you all invested in the Snow League, correct, Sean
Yeah.
White? So when you're looking at an opportunity or a deal, how much does like content and the founder story, their ability to convey that and build their own personal brand, how does that kind of factor into the strategy or the business opportunity when you're looking to invest?
Yeah. And then Sean and we worked with Greg Olson and you think and
Yeah.
um they're pretty special entrepreneurs in their own right, beyond being incredible kind of world-class athletes at whatever their specific domain was. But maybe just taking a step back, like back at Endeavor, we spent a lot of time with the celebrity roster at WME, thinking through creating new brands, partnering celebrities with different types of brands at the early stage and the growth stage, incubating new concepts, whether it's in CPG or it's in something like the Snow League. And you kind of get a sense that that type of motion isn't for every creator or talent out there, because it's not just about like doing the consistent social media post. It's, a lot of it's like, can you go into a room with a big brand sponsor and wow them and help build that relationship for a multi-year contract for something like the Snow League? Or can you get on a Zoom or fly to, Minneapolis or Arkansas to go meet with a big retailer? And if you're selling a CPG product, and I think, incredibly excited about the people that we've had the good fortune of working with here at Will Ventures. And I think over time, there's going to be more and more of these, more and more kind of creators, athletes, talent who find kind of their footing and not just being amazing at kind of their core domain, but actually becoming business builders. Again, not for everybody, and that's totally fine. I think it's for the right type of talent who are interested in kind of growing their business beyond, their core area of expertise. Like we're super excited about that.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree. And even though I'm super bullish on the space, there's also an inherent risk when you tie a personal brand to a company brand because
Mhm.
of maybe controversy or something that, athlete or creator might say that can have a negative impact. So is that something like that risk profile, something that you all think about or consider as well?
You have to consider it. I think the way to mitigate against a lot of that is you got to spend a lot of time with these people
Yeah.
and really understand, is this something that they're deeply, deeply passionate about, or is this a side project? And or get to know them on a level that's beyond just kind of on the business side, but really what makes them tick, how do they think about not just like the next couple of years, but the next 5 to 10 years, and their ambitions to grow and scale. And I think that's like an important aspect of how we think about working with any creator and any talent, whether it's again building an emerging business in youth sports and emerging IP and new sports leagues, or in consumer brands, or also just kind of investing in their entire ecosystem across, a holding company where there's media rights or kind of their digital business, there's live events, there's podcasts, whatever it might be. But it kind of starts with getting to know them as an individual and as a human being, and building trust that way, where, you're not just an outside kind of capital source, but you kind of become a little bit of a trusted partner, and you're able to have the good conversations, but also the bad conversations with them throughout the journey.
Yeah, no doubt. And obviously, like technology, emerging technologies like AI is obviously having a moment and permeating through different verticals or areas within sports. How does emerging technology, whether it is AI or immersive content, personalized content, impact your overall investment thesis?
I think in a couple of ways. Like what we've seen, we saw a little bit of this at the UFC and WWE. I think everybody kind of gets excited about the different opportunities with AI, and you're hearing it everywhere. So you kind of naturally get curious. Well, okay, how is this impacting me as a massive sports property? When you start to go maybe a layer or two deeper, you find that there actually maybe isn't as much direct impact today, with different AI tools that are taking place, or at least finding themselves into larger sports properties. I think you'll hear kind of folks talk about the things they're experimenting with, but in terms of day-to-day revenue or margin impact, I think we're still in the very, very early stages on the sports side. And I think like sports, live events, experiences are actually a great kind of like hedge against wherever AI is going, because you can't totally replicate what's happening in a live sporting experience or a concert, or um, whatever kind of that bucket is pretty, we think at least, uh, differentiated relative to the different things you're seeing in AI. On the flip side of that, though, is we're still super excited about different tools and businesses that are enabling all kinds of folks to create content in a better way, scale it, monetize it, find new audiences. And AI has been a huge tailwind for a lot of those areas, both kind of on the larger end for different types of talent and creators, but also the mid to long tail. In that area, I think we're still kind of working through where the exact like impact is going to be. But one thing that we've been thinking more and more about is as kind of the cost of creating a marginal piece of content, continues to go to zero, whether
Mhm.
it's text, video, audio, whatever it might be. Like people who have a real audience, a real brand, they have curation, like those types of creators and those types of talent are going to be able to break through a lot of the noise, as folks kind of TikTok and Reels get flooded with incrementally more and more content. People who have like a brand and have curation actually are going to stand out over time. So like sports leagues are incredibly well positioned for that. And emerging
Mhm.
IP, we think like the next kind of wave of that is going to be well positioned as well. So we're excited about some of the things that are happening in AI, but also we feel like there's a good amount in the sports and entertainment ecosystem that is still in the very, very early phases of like what that looks like.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's great insight. As I mentioned at the top, when you think about sports investing, Will Ventures is definitely one of the firms that comes to mind. And we're starting to see a lot more institutional capital coming into the sports ecosystem. But what do you feel like a lot of investors get wrong about investing in this space, whether that is from, an emerging league or a team or even on the sports tech side as well?
Yeah, I don't know if I can speak to what necessarily folks get wrong. It's been exciting to see a lot more people starting to think about um, sports broadly as an interesting theme to put dollars to work, both institutions, family offices, high net worths. Um, I think the folks are waking up to the fact that like the affinity and loyalty people have for sports entertainment is pretty unmatched. So because of that, you end up finding consumers who have not just a 1 or 2 year relationship, but a multi-decade relationship with a property. And I think that that's been super exciting. And look, for us, I think it's a credit to Isaiah and Brian and the team to kind of understand this trend early as operators and then build a dedicated firm that's going to support entrepreneurs to go and find amazing opportunities here at the earliest stages, kind of from seed all the way up to kind of raising a bunch of money and ultimately finding a home or going public.
Yeah. And then when you think about sports tech, I mean, it's still generally, compared to other industries, very niche. So what do you think it's going to take for people to take sports technology more seriously and for companies to actually break through and scale in this space?
Yeah, I think using sports as an interesting beachhead, using sports teams or leagues as an interesting way to build credibility, find an audience, build a little bit of a brand. It's a, you know, working with a big league or team in a lot of ways, kind of the flip side of my other answer earlier was it gives you a way to relate to other potential customers who might want to try and test your product. I think, for founders, it's not just about, again, how do I only service this small pocket of like 30 teams or whatever it might be, but how do I build that as a customer base as one piece of the overall pie, but my my business across and specifically within sports technology is much larger in terms of the different end markets it serves. So that's what we kind of talk to folks about. Like it's not just about creating solutions for a handful of potential customers, but like you got to build something that's a little bit wider in nature, especially for kind of the capital structure you're taking on if you decide to take on kind of venture money.
Hmm. And then looking forward, maybe like 5 to 10 years from now, I know you're a small piece of the Will Ventures team, but when you look at the bigger vision and what you guys are really trying to, the legacy you're trying to leave here within the sports and entertainment landscape, what does that look like for you guys? Like, what do you ultimately want to achieve?
Yeah, look, we're very fortunate that we get to do this day to day. I think the team is highly ambitious and wants to build a multi-generational firm that is dedicated to these end markets. We're starting in venture and we're starting specifically kind of around sports, entertainment, and consumer, and just being really flexible and thoughtful with the types of people we end up wanting to partner with and back. And for us, like we're the best parts of kind of our job are empowering founders and operators to go and build amazing products that hopefully touch, millions of people. And we want to continue doing that. And that I think mission doesn't stop with just how big the firm gets or the size of the team or whatever those kind of interesting markers might be, but continue to empower founders, supporting them. Kind of they're the folks that we are ultimately they're the champions of our business, and we want to just be like the best advisors and partners with them as we can. And then for Will Ventures, yeah, look, we're I think early days, and it's we've raised a couple funds, and the team's incredibly excited for what the future has to hold.
I love it, man. Last question before I let you go here. I know it's going to be a tough one, but would love to hear your answer on this, man. We got the World Cup coming. Obviously, the NFL and the NBA is expanding globally. So a lot of different things happening in various sports. Cricket is on a huge upswing. If you had to bet your money on one sport, what would it be and why?
Ooh, um, I would say, I guess I'll go a little bit off the we've been spending more time in certain sports that are less and less monetized,
Mhm.
and particularly in the youth space. And the more work we've done around gymnastics actually has been really
Ooh.
powerful. And look, is gymnastics can compete with the NFL? I mean, these are kind of behemoths on their own right. But I'm saying today, as you think about entering the market, we think there's something special kind of going on there, and excited to work with folks building there. And that's a little bit off the cuff, but I'm a fan of all the other sports you mentioned, so we'll certainly be tuning in.
No, I love it. I love it. No, I appreciate your time, man. Like I said, this has been great. Lastly, can you let people know where they can learn more about Will Ventures and also connect with you?
Willventures.com. You'll kind of see our newly revamped website and a lot of the perspectives we've been sharing and writing about. We've been a research oriented and thematic backed kind of firm for a long time, and just starting to publish more and more of the content that we've been kind of doing internally. And so you can find myself and the team over there, and then connect with us that way.
Sean, thank you for your time, brother. This has been great.
All right, Malcolm. Appreciate you.